Let me ask you something. What is the most painful thing that can happen to a Formula One driver? Losing a championship by 1 point, crashing out of your home Grand Prix, getting fired mid-season? No. The most painful thing in Formula One is embarrassment, because crashes heal, cars get rebuilt, championships come back around. But humiliation? That lives forever. Formula One is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport, the greatest drivers in the world, the smartest engineers, billion-dollar teams, human beings operating at the absolute edge of possibility. And yet, sometimes these people do things so unbelievably ridiculous that you genuinely wonder how they made it into Formula One in the first place. Today, we are diving into the most embarrassing moments Formula One has ever produced. The crashes, the spins, the celebrations gone wrong, the radio messages that destroyed careers, the moments where millions of people around the world all reacted the exact same way. Did that really just happen? And the beautiful thing is this: F1 never forgets. These moments get replayed forever, on YouTube compilations, on TikTok edits, in memes, in documentaries, in the nightmares of the drivers themselves. Some of these moments were funny, some were awkward, some completely changed careers, and some were so catastrophic that the drivers involved are still trying to escape them years later. No PR spin, no corporate protection, just pure Formula One embarrassment. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The celebration that lasted 14 seconds. Lewis Hamilton, China, 2007. Let us begin with one of the most painful collapses in Formula One history, because this was not just embarrassing, this changed the history of the sport. Lewis Hamilton entered Formula One in 2007 like a meteor entering Earth's atmosphere. Rookie season, McLaren, immediate speed, immediate pressure, immediate greatness, and somehow, the rookie was about to win the World Championship. Think about how insane that sounds. A rookie, winning the title immediately, against Fernando Alonso, against Ferrari, against the entire Formula One establishment. Heading into the Chinese Grand Prix, Hamilton only needed a solid finish to put himself in position for one of the greatest rookie seasons ever. Everything was under control, until it wasn't. McLaren delayed the pit stop, and then came the moment. Hamilton entered the pit lane, turned in, and the car simply refused to turn, straight into the gravel trap, in the pit lane. Not during wheel-to-wheel combat, not after contact, not from mechanical failure. He just slid helplessly into the gravel at walking speed while the entire world watched in disbelief. His championship lead evaporated instantly. And here's why this moment became legendary embarrassment. The television cameras immediately cut to Hamilton's father. Absolute devastation. McLaren engineers looked physically ill. Ferrari celebrated like they had just won the lottery. The rookie sensation who looked unstoppable had just beached his car entering the pits. To make things even worse, Hamilton lost the championship by 1 point at the final race in Brazil. 1 point. That gravel trap became one of the most expensive mistakes in Formula One history, and even today, almost 20 years later, fans still remember China 2007 instantly. Not for brilliance, for the gravel. What makes this even more extraordinary is the context. McLaren had the fastest car for stretches of that season. Hamilton drove beyond his years all year long, but in that single pit lane moment, all the brilliance evaporated. It proved that in Formula One, it's not just about being the fastest, it's about staying calm when everything is falling apart. And in China, the calm disappeared completely. Chapter 2. The Wrong Button. Sebastian Vettel, Azerbaijan, 2017. Now this next one is fascinating because it involves a 4-time world champion doing something so unbelievably petty that it looked like it belonged in karting, not Formula One. Azerbaijan 2017, safety car conditions, Lewis Hamilton leading, Sebastian Vettel behind him. Hamilton slowed suddenly before a restart, perfectly legally according to the FIA. Vettel believed Hamilton had brake tested him, and what happened next was one of the most childish moments ever seen from a world champion. Vettel pulled alongside Hamilton, looked directly at him, and deliberately drove into the side of the Mercedes, under safety car conditions. At live television speed, it looked like road rage. Millions watching worldwide could not believe what they were seeing. This was not racing. This was a grown man throwing a tantrum inside a Formula One car. And the reaction afterwards somehow made it worse. Vettel initially denied responsibility, then partially blamed Hamilton, then awkwardly apologized later. The FIA gave him a 10-second stop-go penalty, but the real punishment was reputational damage. Because for the first time in years, Vettel looked rattled, emotionally overwhelmed, out of control, and Formula One fans never let him forget it. Even now, whenever drivers argue behind the safety car, someone always brings up Baku 2017, the moment Sebastian Vettel temporarily became the angriest taxi driver on Earth. What made this incident so damaging wasn't just the collision itself, it was what it revealed about Vettel's mental state during his championship battle with Hamilton. The pressure was visibly cracking him. The composed, clinical four-time champion who dominated at Red Bull was beginning to look fragile. Baku 2017 didn't just cost him points. It planted a seed of doubt in the minds of everyone watching, and that doubt followed him for the rest of the season. Chapter 3. When your own team forgets you. Felipe Massa, Singapore 2008. Pit stops in Formula One are usually works of art, unless you're Ferrari in Singapore 2008. Then they become slapstick comedy. Felipe Massa was leading the race. Championship fight alive, everything under control. Ferrari called him into the pits, the fuel hose was attached, the pit crew wasn't ready, and then someone accidentally released him anyway. Massa drove away, dragging the entire fuel rig down the pit lane. Mechanics sprinted after him in panic. The hose ripped free dramatically. The entire world watched in horror, and the race was destroyed instantly. The embarrassing part wasn't just the mistake itself, it was how absurd it looked. Formula One is supposed to represent precision engineering at the highest level, and Ferrari accidentally recreated a supermarket shopper driving away with the gas pump still attached to the car. Massa eventually lost the championship that season by 1 point. 1 point. And Singapore became one of Ferrari's most infamous operational disasters ever. There is a particular cruelty in losing a world championship by 1 point, knowing that a single blunder by your own pit crew probably cost you the title. Massa never publicly blamed anyone. He carried himself with extraordinary dignity through the aftermath, but every Formula One fan who witnessed that fuel hose moment felt the weight of those lost points every time the championship standings were discussed through the rest of that season. Chapter 4. Fernando Alonso versus Deck Chair, Brazil 2015. This one is less catastrophic and more spiritually humiliating. McLaren Honda in 2015 was a disaster. The car was painfully slow, painfully unreliable, painfully embarrassing. And at Brazil 2015, Fernando Alonso finally looked completely broken. His car failed again. He parked it. And instead of returning to the garage like a normal Formula One driver, Alonso found a deck chair beside the circuit, sat down, and started sunbathing while the race continued, helmet off, relaxing casually, like a tourist on holiday. The images went viral instantly because it perfectly captured McLaren's suffering. Alonso wasn't even angry anymore. He had transcended anger. He had reached spiritual exhaustion, and Formula One fans absolutely loved it. It became one of the defining images of modern F1 frustration. Consider the full context here. Fernando Alonso is widely regarded as one of the 2 or 3 greatest drivers in Formula One history. A 2-time world champion who has driven for Renault, McLaren, Ferrari, and back to McLaren again. A man who beat Michael Schumacher, and yet there he sat, deck chair reclined, watching a race he should have been winning. It was embarrassing for McLaren. It was embarrassing for Honda. But somehow, Alonso managed to make it look cool. Only he could have pulled that off. Chapter 5. The entire 2019 Ferrari strategy department. Honestly, this chapter could be 4 hours long by itself. Ferrari in 2019 somehow turned strategic incompetence into performance art. Drivers fighting each other constantly, confusing radio calls, missed opportunities everywhere, but the peak embarrassment came in qualifying at Monza. Ferrari drivers were trying to exploit slipstreams. Everybody waited too long. Nobody wanted to go first. And the entire field crossed the line too late to start another lap. Chaos. Drivers furious. Fans confused. Commentators laughing openly. Ferrari somehow turned qualifying for their home race into a traffic jam. At Monza, in front of the Tifosi. Spectacularly embarrassing. What made 2019 especially painful for Ferrari was that the car was genuinely fast. On raw pace, they had a legitimate championship challenger, but strategic disasters cost them race after race. In Germany, they lost the lead through a bizarre pit stop call in changing conditions. In Singapore, they found pace, but couldn't translate it consistently. And through it all, the radio communications between the garage and the drivers grew increasingly tense, often leaving both Vettel and Leclerc visibly frustrated. By the end of the year, the dysfunction was impossible to hide. Chapter 6. The most expensive cell phone ever. Monaco 2021. Charles Leclerc. There are mistakes, and then there are Formula One mistakes that feel specifically designed to emotionally destroy Ferrari fans. Charles Leclerc in Monaco 2021 belongs in that category. Monaco is Leclerc's home race, his childhood dream. And finally, he delivered the perfect qualifying lap, pole position. The crowd erupted. Ferrari celebrated like they had won the championship. Then, seconds later, Leclerc crashed into the barriers. Now initially, Ferrari believed the gearbox had survived. Everything looked okay. Leclerc kept pole position. Celebrations continued overnight. Then, race day arrived, and disaster struck. On the formation lap, Ferrari discovered hidden damage to the driveshaft caused by the crash. Leclerc couldn't even start the race. Pole position, home Grand Prix, DNS, didn't even make it to lap 1. The image of Leclerc walking back through the Monaco paddock in complete silence became instantly iconic. And Ferrari somehow managed to turn a dream weekend into emotional destruction in less than 24 hours, which honestly is one of the most Ferrari things ever accomplished. The additional layer of sadness here is that Monaco is the race that matters most to Charles Leclerc personally. He grew up watching Formula One cars race through the streets of his hometown. He has spoken about it as the one victory he wants above all others, and to come so agonizingly close, pole position in hand, home crowd roaring, only to not even take the start. It was the most complete emotional reversal Monaco had ever produced. Final chapter. Wife 1. Embarrassment never dies. Here's the thing about Formula One. The sport moves incredibly fast. Cars evolve, champions change, regulations reset everything constantly. But embarrassing moments, those last forever. Because Formula One is watched by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Every mistake becomes history instantly. And honestly, that's part of why we love this sport so much. Because beneath the billion-dollar technology, beneath the politics, beneath the engineering genius, Formula One drivers are still human beings. Brilliant human beings. Fearless human beings. Sometimes impossibly talented human beings, but human beings nonetheless. And humans make mistakes. Sometimes catastrophic ones, sometimes hilarious ones, sometimes mistakes so ridiculous they become immortal. The gravel trap in China, the fuel hose in Singapore, the deck chair in Brazil, the safety car road rage in Baku. These moments survive because they reveal something real underneath the perfection. They remind us that Formula One is chaos pretending to be precision. And that is what makes this sport endlessly compelling. The gap between what Formula One aspires to be and what it actually is when the pressure gets applied. The teams want to project invincibility. The drivers want to appear unshakable. The whole machine is built around projecting total control. And then someone drags a fuel hose down pit lane. Or a 4-time world champion commits road rage at 60 kilometers per hour. Or a legendary driver crashes alone on a clear track because he felt too comfortable. And suddenly the curtain drops. And we remember why we started watching in the first place. Not just for the brilliance, for the moments when the brilliance fails. Because that's when Formula One becomes truly human. And honestly, that is exactly why we cannot stop watching. Because every single weekend, Formula One gives us the possibility of greatness and the possibility of absolute embarrassment, sometimes only seconds apart. And that's why this sport never gets old. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think is the most embarrassing moment in Formula One history? Did we miss one? Was Vettel in Baku worse than Hamilton in China? Was Ferrari responsible for half this list? Drop your answer below. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more Formula One stories, deep dives, chaos, controversy, and everything else that makes this sport completely impossible to look away from. We'll see you in the next one.